This is undoubtedly the best Volvo ever built. Well, except for my Volvo C70, that is. That's a different story. And you will never want a new Volvo with an internal combustion engine again after driving this car. And it's all about the feeling. I'm going to try to explain why. Actually, I had intended to start the video this way. Goodbye, XC60, thanks for everything. The new EX60 is the most high-tech car Volvo has ever made. The best car they have ever made. A game changer, says Volvo. But for you who have been driving around in a nice old XC60, can you afford to switch? Will you think this one is better? I will answer that. But that was before I had driven the car properly. Now I'm sitting in the P10. It's the nicer version with adaptive suspension, and it's just a dream to ride and drive. It absolutely challenges the BMW iX3 and beats it in some ways too. No doubt about that. And why? Let's check out the features first. Then we'll come back to the driving experience. And of course, we're going to talk about the economy and all that other stuff too. But that high-tech integration can actually feel so incredibly natural and surprisingly non-technical in everyday use. And I really think that Volvo has managed to prove that point with flying colors. It has core computing, it has megacasting, it has cell-to-pack, it has smart charging, it has fast charging. It has all these technical buzzwords that everyone is talking about in the car industry right now. Very good self-driving capabilities and so on. Feel free to watch my full review of this car when it was released. I can put up a little card there. If you watch that video, I go through all the details from the ground up and also have an interview with one of the project managers for the car. Fast 800-volt charging, prepared for vehicle to home and vehicle to grid, and it can also handle charging other things, vehicle to load. New Swedish-developed, Swedish-produced motors. A completely new battery pack that is an integrated part of the whole car. It's called cell-to-pack. They have new seatbelts that detect where you're sitting, how much you weigh, and all that kind of stuff, so the car will be even safer. They've integrated Google Gemini, so you'll be able to talk to this car like a slightly over-intelligent, maybe a bit strange friend. And I'm honestly just wondering how exactly should I start this video? And then Gemini said this.
You have the new Volvo EX60, an assistant that thinks with you, a car that hides its state-of-the-art technology behind a feeling of total security. But under the surface, software problems, price pressure, fierce competition. Can you prove that Volvo has found its way home again? Are you on board?
I'm on board. And how do you think it will stack up against the BMW iX3?
It looks like it will be a close fight, but in different ways. The Volvo will probably have a slight edge when it comes to range and pure power, especially if you go for the performance model. The BMW will likely fight back with its well-known driving pleasure and more alert handling. So the choice probably depends on whether the buyer wants maximum comfort or a more engaging driving experience. What do you think weighs heavier?
For most people, I think they want the comfort and not the driving experience. But now I'm going to calm down. Now we're jumping into the P6. Now we'll take it nice and easy from the start. How I experienced the simpler version. And so we'll make this whole film in that order and talk about the economy and all the other things too. It's not just the driving experience that's the thing, even though that is a very, very big part of it. But there are several things that are a bit annoying about this car. For example, it's only manufactured in Europe for Europe. This is Volvo's flagship car, which has cost enormous sums to develop. It clearly needs global sales, but the 800-kilometer version is over a year away. Why? Are they keeping up with self-driving? Have they sorted out software development? Or will it repeat the EX90? And Volvo's profit margins are falling. Are they even able to compete in China at all? And they need to have a new boss too? And how does this one compare to the rear-wheel drive version of the BMW iX3? But before we get into the deep questions, the difficult questions, we're going to look through the details. There is so much fun stuff to see on this car. We'll start by taking a look at the trunk. Here, they've actually done something very smart, so you can easily fold that up. And then moving over here, we have a storage bag, a surprisingly large space. And right here, we have a really fun little feature. It's a small bucket that holds 9 liters, or so it is claimed. And at the bottom of this bucket, do you see that? Let's see here. There are crabs there because this car was developed in Sweden on the West Coast, and all the kids on the West Coast collect crabs in the summer. So then you can keep your crabs in this bucket and put them in the car and so on. It's playful and fun at any rate. Now let's see. Should I go ahead and measure the spaces too? It measures 102 centimeters, and then we have 103 centimeters in width. Under the cargo cover here, 45, 189, 70. There is the button to release the tow bar, like that. The simplest version can tow 2,000 kilos. The more expensive four-wheel drive one's 2,400 kilos. And then it's split in three. Very good. And I'm sitting comfortably here. 2 knuckles of headroom up to the glass roof, which can also be dimmed and adjusted however you like. Very, very much knee room. Plenty of space for my feet under the front seat. No tunnel, goodbye XC60. A small screen here where you can adjust seat heating and some temperature settings. We'll go and recline a bit more. There we go, a bit more backrest recline. Very good, I would say this is a little bit more spacious than the BMW. An interesting design detail intended to lower air resistance is these wing-shaped handles for opening. A small push button on the inside that you press and then it opens. However, it is important to note that they are not currently approved for use under the new Chinese regulations. It is a hurdle, so they are not completely physical. So if both electrical systems were to be knocked out, this door cannot be opened from the outside. However, it can be opened from the inside. You do this and then you do this. There we have the mechanical opening from the inside, so you can get out of the car if you are conscious. Also, new on this model are these sturdy mounts for the roof rack. To open up the front trunk or frunk, you simply do it like this. Bonk. Very good. So where do we find this tab that you open? Well, you go to this point right there. So it should be there, right there. Bang. Easy to open. And here, as you can see, we have a yellow line that is visible all the way along this section. It is important that you do not load items above that level, because doing so could potentially damage your luggage or the hood mechanism here. So that's also a way to ensure you don't load it too high. Nice. I think this Volvo emblem here looks a bit just thrown on. It would need a grille to make it feel like part of a cohesive whole. This feels a bit plasticky. Thor's hammer. The headlight is good. CV026 on the best version. This is a proper car. I do think, however, that it is actually the most elegant. Now let's see if we should close the tailgate here. With a nice wiper in the back. Now we have the tow bar out too. I'm going to fold that back in. And they say that this does a lot for the airflow. This part is something they are proud of. And then the new signature lights for Volvo. The driver environment is completely new, and the steering wheel is small. A bit two-toned. I don't know, it feels a bit Chinese, I think. Kind, not at all technical like the whole car here, but kind, cozy. Here is the button for driver assistance, so we can't use that right now. Here you can get steering assistance, and here is a quick button to avoid the sound if you're driving a bit fast. Then moving on to these controls, yeah, they definitely feel a bit different. You have this really nice wood trim right here, and over here we have a nice screen. And of course, we also have these large expansive screens. You can adjust the sound level right here. And finally, we have a convenient, fully retractable cup holder located right here. That's how it comes out. Back in with it again. Here we have the glove compartment. So this is where you're supposed to keep your stuff. A bit strange, I think, but it's because it's full of stuff up there, so it didn't fit. Now they did it like this. Here we have a charger for the phone, and you can also have a cord up there if you want to charge with a cable. So a few things there, but it's actually quite good with compartments. Here we have quick commands that you can use, and here we have it. So the simple things that you might always want to have with you. So we get the large navigation only. Nice. We can go back to the car. Here we can adjust all sorts of things. As I said, you have to go in and adjust the steering wheel up and down like this. And as mentioned with the rear view mirrors, one pedal drive. So we have that on auto. I think that's nice. You can have different driving modes, steering feel. And here we have the Bowers and Wilkins system in this car, which is fantastically good. And here we have the apps as well. Lots of apps. Right here on this button, you can quiet things down so there isn't quite so much information showing. it becomes almost no information at all, and then we are right back to the map. Smooth, and there's no head-up display, but I don't actually think it's needed. Nice seat that you can also extend like that. This is the wool version. Very nice. Speaker there. There are comfortable, nice, new, modern seats. I think they are better than they have been for a while. Here on the inside of the door, there is a small QR code. Volvo cars, we press it in there. But normally we should be able to go and load this QR code, and then you should be able to see the battery status. How is the battery doing? Where does it come from? Everything. The history, but above all, the condition. How is the battery doing? That will be a legal requirement later on, but it is already here now. Great. This is the entry-level model P6. From 689,000 kroner, 374 horsepower, 620 kilometers of range. I tried to drive up to a castle here, and the navigation thought this was a great road. So now we really get to test the car on a gravel road. The first thing that struck me when I got into the car and drove off was that the chassis is quiet. This is, after all, a traditional steel chassis. Tomorrow I'm going to drive this active chassis in the P10, the all-wheel drive version. But honestly, this is really quite impressive. The whole car just feels like such a soft, comfortable ride. There we go. Now, we are finally almost up at the castle, which is just sitting right ahead of us. I hope it's nice to take photos up there. I really need to take a nice picture of the car and just see how it looks in the end. This car has active noise cancellation in the higher-end version. It's not the base version. The Ultra doesn't have that. Now let's see. Up to. Maybe we can go a bit higher up to the top here. How about that? I want to get a really nice view of the valley here because it's so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful.
Now I'm driving
with the self-driving assist enabled. Now let's take a closer look to see if it can actually change lanes. If I do this with the turn signal, let's see here. Signal. Now, it really should take that, no? There we go. That should be just about right for what we need, don't you think? Now it's changing lanes. Cancel. Why? No, it won't work now because now a car is coming from behind. Let's see here if it works again. There. There. Now it's changing lanes. Let's get up to 120 because that's allowed here. I have driven on some curvy roads too and so on. It's not as good, intuitive, and nice when it comes to self-driving as BMW, but I would absolutely still add those 20,000 kroner or so for Pilot Plus because it helps out and it brakes in curves, it understands roundabouts. It is a step up when it comes to everyday driving. Cozy, simple, comfortable everyday driving. I really enjoy this car a lot. And it runs quietly. It runs quieter than the BMW, I think. Now I'm driving on Spanish roads, although I have done that with the BMW too. But no, this one feels quieter from the road. Rolls a bit smoother, rolls a bit nicely like this. It has frequency dampers, as they call it on this car. It handles a bit better than standard, but it is steel suspension after all. And yet it rolls really well. The screen is good and everything, but imagine if you had a few more physical buttons. I think they will get there soon. It features more physical buttons and a much more premium interior design. What impresses me the most about this car so far is really truly the comfort, which is just super good. I mean, honestly, move over 96 when it comes to overall ride comfort. And yes, all of this really comes together to create a fantastic driving experience that I think you are going to appreciate. Sure, I really like the XC60's physical buttons a lot, but honestly, this new setup is even better. But the self-steering, well, I think you still need to work a little bit more on that to get it just right. It's a bit nervous compared to BMW. So how would you personally compare the Volvo EX60 against the BMW iX3?
Well, it's tricky to give a direct comparison since the Volvo EX60 isn't out yet. But based on what we know, the BMW iX3 is known for its agile handling and solid tech. The Volvo, when it comes, is expected to focus on a more Scandinavian, relaxed interior, potentially offering higher power options and a bit more range if you upgrade the battery.
I'm actually driving the Volvo now, you know.
Oh, hold on a second. It sounds like you might be driving an XC60, which is the...
No, not at all. I'm driving the EX60. I'm one of the first journalists to drive the new car.
My mistake. I appreciate you clarifying that. Since you're behind the wheel, you have the best perspective. How are you finding the performance and the tech inside compared to other electric SUVs you've tested?
I find the suspension and the overall stiffness to be really great. Honestly, even better than the BMW. However, it does feel just a little bit more introverted than the BMW.
That's interesting to hear, especially about the suspension and stiffness. When you say more introverted, what specifically stands out to you about its personality compared to the iX3?
The Volvo is much more calm. It's softer, it's smoother. The BMW feels just a little bit more agile and perhaps a little bit more responsive in the steering. Honestly, it really talks to me a bit more.
That makes a lot of sense. It seems like you're capturing the core difference perfectly. The Volvo aiming for serene comfort and the BMW delivering that drive.
What? Say again.
I was just saying it sounds like you've nailed the key contrast. The Volvo prioritizing calm comfort while the BMW provides that driver-focused, engaging feel.
So now we're driving on winding roads here. Real Spanish mountain roads. That is a very nice steering input. The steering isn't overly sensitive, but it really just flows along in a way that feels incredibly pleasant. It is intuitive, cozy, and naturally comes with more than enough power. It is not quite as aggressive to drive as an iX3, but it remains very cozy, gentle, and composed on the road. The ride quality is at least as high as in the BMW. Softer, cozier. Maybe much better for a family, I would say. Now it's really pouring down here, the rain. But it really doesn't feel unsafe in any way at all. And you are quite right, as you've noticed, it does come with rear-wheel drive, even on this one. Yes, now I got the ESP light to come on a little bit here, but then you really have to push it. The body control is also very nice. It doesn't roll very much. It stays composed. Even though it's quite soft, the body control is very good. When it comes to build quality, I think we are back again at this level where one can certainly consider it to be okay. It is not perhaps that it doesn't feel quite as heavy or substantial as an old Volvo like my own C70, which honestly feels even more solid and well built than this one. Not having to deal with this big screen and everything on it. But now it's at the level where you feel it's good. It's not like, wow, how cheap, which it felt like, for example, in the iX30. Way too Spartan and cheap. Buying an expensive car that feels cheap, that just doesn't work. So this, you get away with this. This feels good. The reason it's so nice to drive is that it feels like you're driving a body-on-frame car, meaning an extremely stable build. And this one actually has that. Because it has cell-to-pack, which means the batteries are a load-bearing part of the construction. Then you have mega casting at the very back, one single piece. You have nice bushings in the back and front. You have hydraulic suspensions. They have also placed the steering rack further forward. So you can optimize this car to be as stiff as possible. If you have a stiff car, then you have all the prerequisites to make a comfortable car as well, and a car that is dynamic to drive. So first of all, the ride comfort is truly comparable to a high-end luxury car. It is fantastically smooth and just really nice. Now, I am currently driving in soft mode here on the P10, but even when I switch the suspension over into sport mode, it remains very well damped and feels very nice indeed. And then it also becomes very agile to drive. It's fast. There we go. Let's get a feel for it a little bit. There's a difference compared to the regular P6. It's great, but stepping up to the P10 with this DCC chassis, which Volkswagen is usually a master at making, takes it to another level. It becomes another level entirely. And I find that I can drive in soft mode and it's still not wallowy or weird or sloppy, because you also get the center of gravity down so much thanks to the batteries being positioned low. It's fun to drive, no doubt about it. It's perhaps not as active and aggressive when it comes to turn-in and things like that. The steering feel, this sense of the asphalt that the BMW has, that was even crazier. Now, I did drive that one with even more horsepower than this one has, but this one has a real, genuine softness to it, this lovely, compliant roll that the BMW simply can't even come close to matching. So in terms of comfort, and then you will find that it is also remarkably quiet here. This one has noise cancelling. It has laminated windows, of course, which costs 10,000 kroner extra from standard and so on. But it's not sporty to drive, but it's so precise and elegant and just compliant. A different type of driving experience. You simply cannot get this kind of driving experience in a car with a traditional internal combustion engine. That is because you won't get this stable chassis, you won't get this shielded feeling, and you certainly won't get this level of control. And now we're not just talking about the powertrain, which is naturally fantastic in an electric car. Bang, it just sets off and takes off, and it's so smooth and nice. No strange noises, nothing. It really just exists here. It just is. It's just very, very pleasant and truly impressive to behold in this space. Yes. So one thing puzzles me. It is interesting that Volvo's pricing in China is higher than Geely-produced cars like Zeekr, even though these Volvos are made right here in China. It really makes you wonder, why can't Volvo compete better on pricing in the Chinese market?
That's a really good point, and it comes down to brand positioning and perception. Volvo is positioned as a luxury brand globally, including in China, which carries a premium price tag. Even though they share technology with Geely, the Volvo badge commands more money because of factors like perceived higher quality, safety, and the prestige of owning a Western brand. Geely cars are marketed more towards mainstream family buyers using different brand lines entirely. Does that make sense?
It does. It doesn't, no. I think it's sort of rubbish. Today, the conversation is really all about raw performance, specialized equipment, and the latest high-tech advancements. Honestly, the branding itself just isn't as important to that extent anymore.
I hear you. And you're right that performance and technology are huge drivers in the market today. But while your view might be true for many enthusiasts like yourself, for a lot of everyday buyers, the brand still creates a shortcut for assumptions about reliability, service, and overall.
But usually you should be able to locate my emails and read through them, or perhaps draft and send a new email for me, or even assist me with these kinds of tasks whenever they come up. Wouldn't you agree?
I understand why you'd ask that, but I'm actually not able to access your emails, send new emails, or read them out to you right now. For today, my main capabilities are in natural real-time voice conversations, searching for info using Google search, taking notes, adding or updating calendar events, providing directions and searching places on Google Maps, and even understanding what you show me through your camera. Things like handling emails are limitations of this specific live mode.
But looking ahead to the future, I imagine I will be able to simply ask you, hey, take a look at that Porsche driving in front of me. Can you tell me exactly what year it is from and how much it might cost? And perhaps even find me some similar models currently listed for sale over at AutoScout24.
That's a fascinating look into the future. While currently I can only search for general info and browse the web, the technology AI uses to recognize cars from visual input is advancing rapidly. So in the future, it's conceivable that I could blend live video analysis with real-time searches on specific marketplaces like AutoScout24 for pricing data. Anything else you're curious about for the future?
Yes, so that this car will be able to look out and perceive the world around it. The cameras see exactly what I see, and I can simply ask the system what I am looking at. So it can tell me all about this Porsche in front of me, like what model year it is, what it costs, maybe even find an online ad for me, and so on. Or if you are trying to park, you can just say, hey, check these parking signs for me. Can I park here now? Does it work? I don't understand these instructions. and then it should be able to say that and so on. So the car should use cameras, and I can ask, that big building up ahead, what is that actually called? And so on. So that you should be able to, it will see what I see, and it will know more than I do about the surroundings and search and tinker. So that is the upcoming future update that will be arriving soon. But all Volvo vehicles manufactured from 2020 onwards will be eligible to receive this new Gemini update. This means you can simply sit back and talk to your car to get assistance with your daily tasks, or even ask for helpful tips on things like what to buy as a birthday gift for your child, and so on and so forth. Or you could just say, "Hey, Google."
Exactly.
Let's talk.
That is exactly the type of smart assistants we are heading towards. Yes, being able to use cameras to get information about the surroundings, whether it's a car, a parking sign, or a building, will make everyday life much easier. And it is true that Volvo intends to invest in that technology going forward. What are you looking forward to the most about being able to talk to the car in that way?
Yes, but if you're driving alone, you get a companion who is super smart and can help me with everything. So that is actually fascinating. Yes, trips will be much, much more exciting and easier in the future. And maybe I can set it up so that you can remember things, so that every time I get into the car, you tell me, "Hey, remember this?" or "Have you done this?" or the calendar, and so on and so forth. So you will be smarter and remember things that I might forget. Great. But hey, my son wants to buy a 7-seater electric car used for a maximum of 400,000 kroner. What should he buy?
I completely agree. It will feel like an eternity with a smart assistant, and the trips will be much smoother. When it comes to your son's 7-seater electric car for a maximum of 400,000 kroner, there are a few options. He could take a look at a used Tesla Model X, although that might be on the high side price-wise.
Yes.
Other possibilities are the Mercedes EQB, or if you think a bit differently, a Volkswagen ID Buzz with 7 seats. Then we also have brands like the BYD Tang. Is there any specific brand or feature he is looking for?
No, it can gladly be a bit outside the box. Actually, can you help me find some ads for 7-seater electric cars that are under 400,000?
Absolutely. Thinking outside the box is good. I've taken a look, and it seems that the Mercedes EQB sometimes pops up as a used car with 7 seats within that budget. The BYD Tang could also be interesting.
Yes.
Should I see if I can find concrete ads for any of them?
Yes, do that.
I've checked the situation, and when it comes to the Mercedes EQB, you can find used 2022 models with 7 seats for just over 400,000 kroner. There are a few ads out on sites like Billweb and Blocket. The BYD Tang generally seems to be a bit more expensive and lands a bit over 500,000 as a used car, so the EQB feels like the more realistic choice price-wise.
Yes, it works quite well, and honestly, it is going to work much, much better as we move forward. So with this update, the voice assistant has finally entered the game just as effectively as the phone itself. You see, you really cannot rely on the phone's back end while you are driving in a car for various things, because this one should also be able to control, for example, I want to adjust the temperature, or I want to set something and so on, the ambient lighting, something, or talk about the car. So this device can also help you fix various issues with your car, and it can discuss all sorts of other things too. It really does have a dual functionality here. Otherwise, you could really just have your phone and talk to the same thing. When it comes to checking real-world range, I always head over to the EV database website. How far can you actually go in the winter if you make a quick 15-minute charging stop? Overall, this P6 manages 500 kilometers, a rear-wheel drive X3 goes 530 kilometers, and a Tesla Model Y long-range AWD hits 500 kilometers. So honestly, this car is completely on par when it comes to range and good charging performance. So they are really on par when it comes to both range and charging, which is definitely good to see. Honestly, Tesla isn't really leading on the charging front anymore, nor are they leading on vehicle-to-load or vehicle-to-everything capabilities. So there is actually a huge difference now when it comes to modern electric vehicle technology. It's really bad for Tesla, honestly. So why isn't this car manufactured in China? Well, because Volvo has invested 10 billion to be able to manufacture these electric cars in Torslanda, Gothenburg. They simply don't have those kinds of massive sums to put into factories in China and the USA just yet. But I think they will eventually be forced later on to adopt mega casting and similar methods to use the same technology for all of their upcoming cars. So I think it will come, but at the moment they can't afford it. That's my guess. And the 800-kilometer version, why isn't that coming now then? Are they having problems with the batteries? They say that there are batteries, but they say that they don't have the capacity at the factory to run 3 different lines. So they are prioritizing getting the volumes up with 2 different battery versions. I think that's a bit questionable. I think they would have preferred to manufacture the 800-kilometer version as well, which is more expensive, so they make more money. That's the Volvo way. First sell the expensive ones and then come in with the cheaper versions. But maybe it was the case that they wanted to ramp up the speed very, very quickly, and so they only run 2 versions that they sell. And as for software problems with this one, I haven't noticed anything so far with this car. We really have to hope that this disaster that has been with the X90, that it doesn't carry over to the X60, because it would be a disaster for Volvo to have that, because this is a volume car. The EX90 has never been a real big volume car. And then we have this thing with China. Can Volvo afford to stay in the Chinese market? It is still enormous. It is, I believe, the biggest market for Volvo, but they don't have any good cars there. And if we take a closer look at the pricing in China, the XC70, which is currently Volvo's biggest seller in that market, is actually just a rebadged Lynk & Co model. It costs the same money as a Zeekr 7X in the top-of-the-line version with everything, the big battery. A much more luxurious car. In the Chinese market, for 2 cars that are developed in China and manufactured in China, Volvo has much worse pricing. Whatever the reason for that is, I don't understand. Does anyone know why Volvo's cars in China that are built in China are so expensive? Even the ES90 and EX90, which are finally starting to be sold in China, are too expensive. They don't stand a chance of competing with the Chinese manufacturers. There is something going on. The brand isn't strong enough to charge a premium for electric cars because those who like the Volvo brand are usually the type who want a small gasoline engine, a plug-in hybrid, and so on. So a bit more old school. So no, this new generation of drivers that really wants technically advanced modern cars, they simply won't buy a Volvo. I really don't think so. And yet, this is absolutely, without a doubt, the single best car that Volvo has ever built. And the fact that it isn't being sold in the Chinese market right now is actually crazy. It really feels like we just can't handle this kind of intense competition. It's too tough. It doesn't pay off with the investment they would need to make to be able to manufacture this car in China as well. So it becomes a European car. And what about Volvo's next boss then? I think in any case that it will be a Swede. I believe that signal is really needed for the market to help maintain this truly Swedish feel in the brand. I think it's vital for them. What do you think? The summary after having driven the EX60 for 2 days is that the foundation of this car, that stable quality that makes it both so very comfortable and nice to drive, actually takes driving the ride experience to a new level. I think so. It cannot be compared to an XC60 in any way in the world, so it is worth the extra money. And all the technology in this car makes it so much easier to live with, but you don't feel it. So it's smart, but in the background somehow. So you really don't need to worry about all this complicated high-tech stuff. Just sit back and let the car do its job. And Gemini is a step up, quite naturally, but it's good. However, the self-driving capabilities still need to get just a little bit better. And then we'll do the competitive analysis against, for example, BMW. It's definitely sportier. Do you happen to like the design of the BMW more? Absolutely, you should drive it. But personally, I would choose the Volvo because I really think it has that extra level of driving smoothness and comfort that I appreciate very much as an everyday car. So for me, there's actually no question about it. I would also choose the wool interior, which is very nice. It doesn't feel too hot in the summer and not too cold in the winter. I don't think the front is the best looking, but otherwise a really nice car. I could have used a few more buttons and things in the interior. And which model should you choose? Well, the P6 is perfectly sufficient, but if you can afford the P10 with this adaptive DC chassis, which is a bit stiffer when it's sporty but not too stiff, so it's very Volvo tuned in a lovely way. It's still comfortable all the time, but in the soft mode, I think it's really lovely. So that's the one I would really like to have. Now, it costs a hell of a lot of money, but it's said to have good resale value. I really believe that too. And the XC60, I'm saying goodbye to the XC60. I don't think it's worth the money anymore. Maybe that will happen with the update that's coming this autumn. But no, right now it feels like goodbye XC60. You've done a good job, but now the future is here. It's standing over there. It's called the EX60. Sorry. That's how it goes. Generation after generation gets replaced. And this one is so much better. And if we look at the competitors like Tesla, I don't think the Model Y as it stands today isn't that much cheaper, doesn't have better performance in any way, and this one has much higher comfort. So I would choose this one any day of the week over a Tesla and even a Zeekr 7X, which has more bling and brings more value for money. But no, the Volvo is a more homogeneous, fine product. It doesn't beep, it just makes life easier and cozier. So that is also a great luxury. I would rather have that luxury than this flashy luxury that the Zeekr has. But that's a matter of taste. So the Zeekr is nice in its own way. There's no question about that. But it is a really nice car. Volvo,
Congratulations, it'll be a success.